Alright, so now Hebrews, y'all see what it say. City and polite and shocker hunting down Hebrew Israelites. They been having a good time. These dudes been having a good time off the Hebrews. Man, they been having a good time. They so emboldened with their wickedness that they go hunt the Hebrews down. See what I'm saying? But who they hunting down? They hunting down them brothers on that occult knowledge and on that Jewish history. He ain't hunting down no Hebrew that shoot no real history at him. You see what I'm saying? Because they far in between, buddy. Just about everybody be pushing that Jewish history, thinking they pushing Israelite history. You know, that's like the Israelite Brotherhood. Man, the Israelite Brotherhood gonna basically be the only organization, and some of them they gonna try to take credit for it later on, but they ain't gonna be able to, because the people gonna know that the Israelite Brotherhood show that we are the Queen of Heaven worshipers that went into Africa during the book of Jeremiah, during the Babylonian Wars, and that we are the people that broke the covenant. And I'm going to show this. See, this dude is major wicked, and the people that be congregating around him, they major wicked. See, we know that Egypt tried to steal our souls. See, this person, along with a whole bunch of people, they're going to try to say that we the Egyptians and try to push an Egyptian ideology and culture on us Hebrew Israelites, because that's what enslaved us and caused us to fall and lose our heritage. It was the Egyptians that caused us to lose our covenant with the Creator. You see, Egypt did trade with Mesopotamia. Egypt did trade with Mesopotamia. And us having that covenant right there would have shut Egypt down. Egypt wasn't stupid and Pharaoh wasn't stupid. Pharaoh knew that after Joseph, a brother who was a Hebrew, had answered his prayers, that his magicians, that Pharaoh's magicians and priests' ideology wasn't no good, and that they wasn't connected to the Creator. See, Joseph answering Pharaoh's dreams gonna embarrass Pharaoh's priests in his whole religious system, because them people knew that we was Hebrew Israelites. See, Egypt tried to steal our soul and tried to take our soul from us and have us worship the Egyptian gods and the pagan gods of the day. You know, and that's what these wicked individuals be trying to push. They want us to be caught up in that Egyptian mess that caused us to lose our heritage. Okay, to establish that the Egyptians called us Hebrews, you know, I want you brothers to go to Exodus. This gonna be Exodus 1. We're gonna see Genesis 39:14. Just 39:14. All right. Genesis 39:14 says, Then she called all the men of the house and spake unto them, saying, See, he had brought in an Hebrew unto us to mock us. He come in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. That's that Egyptian lady that tried to say that Joseph tried to knock her off and tried to hit on her and stuff, and tried to rape her and stuff, and that was a lie. You see, them folks called us Hebrews, so them Egyptians knew our ethnicity. You know what I'm saying? They knew the difference. You know what I'm saying? And the difference between us and them. All right. If you go to Genesis, Exodus, that'd be Genesis 43:32. Genesis 43:32. So we got to show that them Egyptians called us Hebrews. All right, and then right here it goes. This is Genesis 43 verse 42. And they set on for him by themselves, and for them by themselves, for the Egyptians which did eat with him by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination unto the Egyptians. See, the Hebrews gonna be some cattle herders. See, our money was in sheep and cattle, and we had plenty of it. You see, your wealth back in the days was how many sheep and how many cattle and goats you had. And being that we was coming into the promised land, Abraham from Mesopotamia, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob gonna have plenty cattle. And when we went into Egypt during the famine time, we took our livestock with us. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't eat up all your cattle, so we had to go to Egypt to get some grains and stuff. And them people knew that we was Hebrews. That's like during our stay there, those women that Pharaoh told to kill the babies, the Hebrew babies during Moses' birth, them people gonna know that we Hebrews. You see what I'm saying? They gonna know that we Hebrews. If you go to Exodus 1, you're gonna see that the Egyptians' wives, servants was told to go in into the Hebrew women while they was, giving birth to their babies and stuff, and to get them. And the Hebrew women would already had their babies and stuff, so the Egyptians knew that we was of an ethnic stock different than the Egyptians. See, if you get down to Exodus 1:16, and it says, and he said, when you do this office of midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stool, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then ye shall save them alive. You know what I'm saying? But you see, they called the women Hebrews. All right, Exodus 1:19. And the midwife said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women. See, so them folks knew the difference between the Hebrews and the Egyptians. You know what I'm saying? That's like right here. Moses said this. All right. Then, all right, this the Pharaoh saying this. Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee? That's going to be with Moses, getting put in the Nile, and then that Egyptian woman finding him and knowing that he was of an ethnicity different than the Egyptians. So the Egyptians knew we was different, all right? So then if you go to Exodus 2:11, and it says, and it come to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burden, and he spied an Egyptian hitting a Hebrew in one of his brethren. So everybody knew we was Hebrews. Everybody knew he was Hebrews. So dude can cut that mess out saying that the Hebrews wasn't in Egypt, or that we was the same people. And to show you that we was in Egypt, it's this place called Tel Yehudi. Tel Yehudi is gonna be where the where Heliopolis was. Heliopolis is where we were doing our Egyptian stay, and Heliopolis is gonna be where the priest of On was. That's like, check this out, all the pyramids. He say we ain't build no pyramids, but all the pyramids on the west side of the Nile, all of them. And in the Sahara, right below Libya, we built baby pyramids. When we went into Africa fleeing the Babylonians, and we sojourned in Africa for about 1,500 years, we had a lot of activity in Africa. So this dude can cut that mess out, talking about we wasn't in Egypt. So how was Joseph gonna marry the priest of On's daughter and have two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, if we wasn't in Egypt? You see what I'm saying? Okay, I want to establish the fact that the Egyptians, they knew that we was Hebrews. I did that. Okay, the Creator sent Moses in to get us up out of Egypt. You know what I'm saying? And this what the Creator said to Moses. And he said, thou shalt say unto him, the Elohim Yah of the Hebrews had sent me unto thee, saying, let my people go, that they may serve me in the wilderness. And behold, thereunto thou shouldest not hear. And Pharaoh showed up, didn't hear. Moses went to him countless times, asking him, let my people go. Let the Hebrews go, that they can serve their Creator in the wilderness. And Pharaoh said, no, about 6-7 times. No, they can't go serve no God. And Pharaoh was so ruthless, he even told Prophet Moses that y'all can serve y'all God in this land, in the land of Egypt, knowing that them Egyptians was going to get us if we tried to worship our God in their land, which showed that we worship a different God. You see, this showed that we worship a different God. If you go to Exodus 8, verse 25, Exodus 8, verse 25, and it says, and Pharaoh called Moses, said, go ye sacrifice. And Pharaoh called for Moses and for Aaron and said, go ye sacrifice to your God in the land. Talking about in Egypt. And Moses said, it is not meet so to do, for we shall sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians before their eyes, and will they not stone us? You know, so Moses said, let us go 3 days out of Egypt to worship, you know what I'm saying, the God of the Hebrews. And Pharaoh said, no. So Moses, you know, put all them plagues on Egypt that the Creator said he was going to put on them. You know, the Egyptians had us in bondage because the Egyptians wanted to steal our soul. You know, the Egyptians know we didn't worship their God. And when we came into Egypt and before they enslaved us, at the time that we was being enslaved, they put this obelisk up. This obelisk called the Cleopatra Needle. It's in New York. And this obelisk was put up at the same time that we went in slavery. Not no years before or not no years after. Probably the same week or the same month that we went into slavery in Egypt, they put this obelisk up. We would have seen this obelisk, and it's from Heliopolis, where the priest of On and where the Egyptian religious system was. We was in a original place that was there before pre-dynastic times, where Heliopolis is where the Egyptians held their temples and their main important temples and stuff. Well, this obelisk called this Cleopatra Needle that's in New York, that was in Egypt when we was enslaved in Egypt during Moses' time, and it was there from Egypt city of Heliopolis on around 1450 BC. You know, 1450 BC is when, you know, that obelisk was there. And then we exodus, man, around about 1406 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So we got on down from Egypt. And all right, they put that obelisk up, and then that's the Pharaoh Necho that killed King Josiah. King Josiah would clean the land up from the Egyptian worship that the Egyptians tried to install on us from Joseph married to Asenath, and they having those two sons. Well, the tribe of Ephraim did the Egyptian worship, as can be seen in Tanakh history, and I'm gonna show that. But first of all, I want to show how the Egyptians bust us open. Bust us open. If you go to Ezekiel 23, Ezekiel 23, chapter 23, and you will see what it says. And it's awful because the Egyptian system was the first to distort our mind and distort our perception on what we should be doing and worshiping the Creator. All right, man, if you look at chapter 23 of Ezekiel, and it says, and the word of the Elohim came again unto me, saying, Son of man, there were two women and the daughters of one mother, and they committed whoredoms in Egypt. They committed whoredoms in their youth, and there were their breasts pressed, and there they bruised the tits of their virginity, meaning that the Egyptians broke us in. It was the Egyptian religion that broke us in. We was a virgin and didn't have nothing to do with none of the religions. No type of religion. Abraham and Isaac worshiped one creator, the creator Yah. You know what I'm saying? And they wasn't caught up in that Canaanite culture that existed in the promised land since 2400 BC. 2400 BC, the Canaanite culture was strong. The Amorite culture, the Creator had saved them Amorites, and I'm gonna go into that too. We had two we're really one big ethnic group, but two forces trying to get us up off the promised land. You know what I'm saying? And they succeeded. But as this says, that the Egyptians broke us in. You know what I'm saying? We was a virgin with those religious concepts, and that Egypt bust us in. Okay, if you Hebrews, check this out. You know, this individual major wicked, because he trying to get us to worship and embrace the Egyptian culture that sent us into slavery. You know, if you go to that's gonna be Exodus. No, that's gonna be Genesis 42. Genesis 42. You know, this is when it all started, when Pharaoh gave Joseph Asenath, the priest of On daughter. All right, go to Genesis. Yeah, so these dudes trying to get us to be Egyptians and want us to embrace an Egyptian culture. They trying to keep us with a culture that stole our whole everything, that caused us to lose the covenant. You know, if you go to Genesis 41, verse 45, you'll see, and it says, and Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zephaniah Peninnah, and gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. And Joseph went out all over Egypt. All right, so Pharaoh, knowing that after Joseph done answered those dreams and that his religious system was on the land, he gonna immediately give Joseph Asenath. That's the priest of On daughter. You see what I'm saying? And the priest of On is gonna be the head dude over the religious system of Egypt. All right. If you go to Genesis 41, 50, and it says, unto Joseph were born two sons before the year of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bore unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for Yah had made him forget all his toil and all his father's house. You see what I'm saying? The Egyptians had it so good and gave him so much materialism and everything that he almost forgot who he was. The same as the Egyptian system. If you work for them, trying to destroy, you know, the our Hebrewness, you know what I'm saying, they reward you. All right. In the name of the second called he Ephraim, for Yah had caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. Okay, so Joseph having those two sons, Asenath had two sons by him, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Ephraim gonna be big in cattle worship, you know. And that's like when we left, Pharaoh was so dirty that this Pharaoh that just come on, man, this Pharaoh that just come on, told us that we couldn't leave Egypt and that we had to stay there to worship the Egyptian religion, and we had to go serve the Creator, so we couldn't stay in Egypt. You know, the Creator had already said that we was His armies, so it was important that we get released from Egypt. And us being released from Egypt, from that Egyptian religion system, we were supposed to have a new culture, and our new culture was supposed to be in defiance to the Canaanite Egyptian idol worshiping culture that they had. All right. If you go to Exodus 7, Exodus 7:9. All right. Exodus 7:3. All right, Exodus 7:3 says, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh shall harden his heart, man, unto thee, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt and bring forth my armies and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by a great judgment. Then the Egyptians shall know that I am the Elohim. Okay, us getting out on the Egyptians and Moses showing his miracles from the Creator, the Egyptians gonna be hot at us, and the Egyptians gonna be dirty and low down because they know that they whole future at stake in their whole religious system. So, like I said, the Egyptian Pharaoh gonna give Joseph Asenath, and from Asenath, those two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, and the tribe of Ephraim was big on Egyptian religion. You go to Exodus 12 is when we left Egypt. It's when we left Egypt, us Hebrews, because we know that the Egyptians understood that we was different than them. Alright, and then when you get to Exodus 12, verse 38, and it says, and a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks and herds, and even very much cattle. Those gonna be the people that's kin to Manasseh and Ephraim. Their relatives gonna get down with us. Like I said, the East Africans and the West Africans used to fight over Egypt, and the West Africans controlled Lower Egypt, and the East Africans controlled Upper Egypt. But the West Africans on the west side of the Nile would unite the whole Egypt at times, and this was a time when the East Africans held control the Nubian stock, and they put us in bondage, and we had to get on down, and some of the Mishwish tribes left with us, but they was cattle worshippers, and that was Pharaoh being slick right there. The Pharaoh, the Egyptian ruling system being fake, allowing they people to get down with us, knowing that they was cattle worshippers, because you can see soon as Moses go up, to get the law after we, out of Egypt, Moses go up and get the law, and you'll see that immediately after he's gone, that, it was, the people that left Egypt with us wanted us to make gods to go before us. And, Exodus 32 says, and when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him, make us gods which shall go before us. For as for this Moses man that brought us out of the land of Egypt, we know not what happened or what become of him. And Aaron made them golden calves. You know what I'm saying? And then Moses come down, and then, we got rid of that crew, some of that crew that, wanted the golden calf, the Egyptian worship on us. We wandered around for 40 years, and then we started to come into the promised land. We started to come into the promised land around about 1375 BC. And Moses' death gonna be about 1406 BC, and then Joshua come on. Okay, when we go into the promised land, it was awful. We ain't stayed nothing in the promised land for about 800 years, and I'm gonna prove this. I'm gonna prove that we didn't stay in the promised land long, and that we didn't stay there long enough to leave an imprint of who we are, because we got chased out the land. And this another thing. Let me clear this up. This wicked individual said it ain't no creator. When he first started the video, he gonna say, oh, where is God at? Why come you can't call him up and do this and that? And why come he can't do this and that? Oh, wicked, evil, blasphemous person. You know what I'm saying? The creator gonna, deal with him. You best believe that. All right, check this out. If you go to Deuteronomy, and then I'm gonna get back on the Queen of Heaven thing, showing how them Egyptians tricked us out of our heritage. All right. If you go to Deuteronomy 31, chapter 17, you will see it says, then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they shall say in that day, are not these evils come upon us, because our Yah is not among us? And then this wicked individual gonna say, well, where's their graves at? Where the kings' graves at? And everybody got graves of their kings and stuff like that. He's so ignorant that he don't even know Tanakh history. You see what I'm saying? That's why come he done doomed himself, because he don't even know the history and stuff. And then he chanting the history down. Okay, if you go to chapter 30, chapter 8 of Jeremiah. This is in our last days. This is when we went into Africa. The book of Jeremiah gonna be the last prophet for the 99%. The 99%, because, you know, this is during the Babylonian wars. You know, we was chased off the land, and 1% was taken to Babylon when the millions, the 99%, ran into Africa to worship the Egyptian religion. We was tricked out of our heritage. All right. If you go to Jeremiah 8, this is why come they can't find no bones and no DNA for the Hebrews to match the people that come out of Africa that live there for over 400 years, that they should be able to find some relics, but they can't, because the Creator said this. This is Jeremiah 8. At that time said the Elohim, they shall bring out the bones of the kings of Judah, and the bones of his princes, and the bones of the priests, and the bones of the prophets, and the bones of the inhabitants of Jerusalem out of their graves. And they shall spread them before the sun and the moon and all the host of heaven, whom they have loved and whom they have served, and after whom they have walked, and whom they have sought, and whom they have worshipped. They shall not be gathered nor be buried. They shall be for dung, for doo-doo upon the face of the whole earth. So them bones of our prophets and kings and priests were destroyed during the Babylonian time. The Babylonians dug the graves up looking for gold. That's a known fact. That's a historical fact. The Persians dug the graves up looking for gold and relics, because they know that we Hebrews had a lot of gold. It's documented in our history that we dealt with a lot of gold. So the Babylonians would look in the graves, the Persians would look in the graves, the Greeks would look in the graves, and the Romans would look in the graves. You got 1,000 years of grave robbing in the promised land. So it's gonna be impossible, just like the Creator said, that them bones will be dug up and thrown out. So that's what happened to our bones. You see what I'm saying? So this individual is real wicked. He don't know what's going on, and he trying to help this Egyptian system that was set up to take our soul and keep us entrapped in misery and in the bondage that we in. You see what I'm saying? The same system that they got now, the Egyptians had it. You know, the Egyptians had them on wicked holidays. The Egyptians tried to change our names. The Egyptians tried to get us stuck in a class like the middle class, the lower class, the rich. You know, the Egyptians tried to steal our soul, and they wanted us to worship their gods. You couldn't worship Almighty Yah in Egypt, as was shown that Pharaoh tried to trick Moses and say, well, worship your God here in Egypt. So them Egyptians could have got us. So they showed that we worship a different God. You see, the Egyptians had an idol worshiping God, idols and stuff, the same as the people in Mesopotamia and Babylon. They had lost their way. You know, I believe at one time they might have worshipped the original Creator, but they had lost that way as they idols and images show. So this individual is real wicked for wanting us to be the Egyptians. You know what I'm saying? How he going to hunt some Hebrews down. I got you now, brother. I got you. I got you, old wicked city. This Israel been Israel for the Israelite brotherhood. All right. Now we know that the Egyptians set their peoples with us, and that the tribe of Ephraim was kin to the Egyptians. Okay, you can see this during Solomon time. You know, during Solomon's reign, it's this brother named Jeroboam. You know, and he was from the tribe of Ephraim. If you look at 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 26, you'll see it says, and Jeroboam the son of Nebat, an Ephrathite of Zerudah, of Solomon's servant, whose mother name was Zeruiah, a widow woman, even he lifted up his hand against the king. Okay, and Solomon tried to get up with him, and he will flee to his relatives in Egypt. Shawshank gonna be from the Mishwish tribes, the people from Lower Egypt, from the west side of the Nile, them gonna be the real pyramid builders and stuff. And that's what Ephraim them was kin to them. All right. And Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam. And Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt unto Shawshank, king of Egypt, and who was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. All right, that was his relative. You know, that was his relative. As I shown that Asenath had Manasseh and Ephraim. You know, that was the Egyptian woman. That was the priest of own daughter. So they gonna have some clout. You know what I'm saying? So he would go to Egypt during Solomon time. All right, and then upon Solomon's death, he would come out and he would bring 2 golden calves. These 2 golden calves. He brought the golden calves out on us. He brought the golden calves out on us, and he put that on us, the Egyptian religion. Because like I said, the Egyptians had to do trade on the other side of us. And us having that covenant right there, they couldn't go all the way around Saudi Arabia. They didn't have no planes, no cars, no trains back then. So Egypt had to put their guard on us in order to get us messed up. Or have us on their religion so they can come across the promised land when they want to. And that's basically what they did. We was on Egyptian religion a long time. Like I say, we was only in the promised land about 800 years. And about 500 of those years, we was breaking the covenant with the Egyptian religion or the Amorite religion. And I'm going to show that too. But yeah, that's the Egyptian golden calf that Jeroboam brung out. And he will bring 2 of them out. Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Okay, if you go to Second Chronicles 13:8. All right, and then you'll see it says that this is under Adijah. That this is under Adijah. And it says, And now ye think to withstand the kingdom of Yah in the hand of the sons of David, and ye be a great multitude, and there with you are golden calves, which Jeroboam made for you for gods. You see what I'm saying? So we had that on us for a long time. Matter of fact, from the time of Solomon's death in 931 BC, we will have the Egyptian religion on us for 300 years. For 300 years, from the time of Solomon's death to the time that King Josiah was born, around about 331 BC, 632 BC, 632 BC. And then King Josiah started to clean that Egyptian worship up. So we was on the Egyptian worship for 300 years right there. And I'm going to show some more years we was on the Amorite Egyptian religion, which showed that we didn't leave no impact or our culture the way we was supposed to in the promised land, to where it could identify and trace you to us after we broke covenant. So that didn't happen. You know, it's like I said, the Canaanites had about 2,000 years of culture there before we even got there. Okay, so you see that. Jeroboam brung the golden calves out on us. All right, and then if you go to the book of Jeremiah, this is after King Josiah was killed. This is around about 588 BC. We went into Africa and it was over with. You know what I'm saying? And that's how we got enslaved, because the Egyptians, you know, after they killed King Josiah, after us doing 300 years of Egyptian worship, and then we get free of it, man, for about 30, 40 years, and they come kill King Josiah and put us back on it, and then we would go into Africa. And if you go to chapter 44, verse 15, 16, 17, and 18, you will see that this was a state of mind. All right. This Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 15. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwell in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, and Pathros is southern Egypt. You know what I'm saying? We lived in southern Egypt and in northern Egypt when we went into Africa during our last days on the promised land, trying to get away from the Chaldeans. All right, then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, as for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of food, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by the famine. All right, that was it. It was over with. Another message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Message from the Israelite Brotherhood. And ain't no organization but the Israelite Brotherhood showing that we are the Queen of Heaven worshipers. So these guys can't come in later on and try to take the credit for this, because it's something the Israelite Brotherhood doing. Them guys don't know no history. They be teaching Jewish histories in the myths that we got from the Jews since we've been in captivity, in the history that they wrote. And I'm going to go into that too. It's a whole lot of history that they wrote. And I'm going to show you who the Jews is too. All right, so we will go into Egypt to worship the Egyptian religion. And let me show y'all something. All right, from the time of our father Abraham leaving the Mesopotamia area around about 2091 BC, you know what I'm saying? Abraham, our father Abraham, don't have the law, the covenant that was given to us through Moses. You know what I'm saying? But Prophet Abraham was a true believer in the Creator. He didn't even have the covenant that we had instructing the laws that we were supposed to do to worship the Creator. He didn't even have that, and he believed in the Creator straight from his heart. So with Isaac and so with Jacob. You know, they were surrounded by the Ammonite, the Amorite Egyptian culture. The Amorite Egyptian Babylonian culture dominated the whole area from Egypt to Mesopotamia, and we was caught up in that, and them folks had lost their ways, and they wasn't worshiping the real Creator. They was worshiping idols, and they was expressing the Creator will through idols and images. And the Creator said don't do that. That's what he told Moses. Don't make no image or no representation of him in heaven or on earth. So this dude kind of wicked. This Seti dude, G-Seti dude, real wicked, because he gonna say, well, God made y'all, and you can't call it, and something about God and how he look. Man, the Creator made us in his image. You know what I'm saying? We already know that Adam, the rib story is true, because if you taking a portion of the rib regenerate itself and grow back. That's a medical fact. And also, we know that the Creator existed because also, if you look at when the Creator said that he destroyed the giants on the earth and on the land, well, the ones in the sea still giants, like the whales and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And then we know it's a Creator because everything that Moses said and then came to pass, all those curses. And it's not by coincidence after all that time. Can't no coincidence keep happening century after century after century. You know what I'm saying? The Creator told us what was going to happen, and it came to pass. We've been enslaved. Okay, Abraham left the Mesopotamia area, man, around about 2091 BC. Our father Isaac is born 2066 BC. You know, around about that time, Sodom and Gomorrah is destroyed, because that's the Amorites, the people who lost their ways. That's their civilization. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to show also why we were supposed to get the Canaanites land is because the Canaanites had lost their ways. You know, them Amorites, you know, we were supposed to replace them Amorites. And the Amorites was the head dominating force in Canaan that time. Let me establish the fact that the Canaanite culture was their pre-Israelite culture. If you go to Ezekiel chapter 16, he going to tell you about Jerusalem and the abomination of those Amorites and how the Creator saved old wicked Amorite. You know, the Amorites had Tezzeret on them. You know, and this is why we was supposed to, you know, get rid of them, because they had turned real wicked. And Ezekiel 16 and explain the covenant that the Creator had with those folks. And we can't say who the Creator can have a covenant with and who he can't. All right. Chapter 16, Ezekiel. Then the word of the Elohim came unto me, saying, Son of man, cause Jerusalem to know her abomination, and say, Thus said the Elohim Yah unto Jerusalem, Thy birth and thy nativity is of the land of Canaan. Thy father was an Amorite, and thy mother a Hittite. It's the beast folks in there. All right. And as for thy nativity, in the day that thou was born, thy navel was not cut, neither was thy washed in water to supply thee. Thou wast not salted at all, nor swaddled at all. None I pitied thee to do any of these unto thee, to have compassion upon thee, but thou wast cast out in the open field to the loathing of thy person in the day that thou wast born. And when I passed by thee and saw thee polluted in thine own blood, I said unto thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live. Yeah, I said unto thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live. And I caused thee to multiply as the bud of the field, and thou wast increased and waxen great, and thou art come to excellent ornament. Thy breasts are fashioned, and then hair is grown, whereas thou wast naked and bare. Then when I passed by thee and looked upon thee, and behold, that time was time of love, and I spread my skirt over thee and covered thee nakedness. Yeah, I swear unto thee and entreated into a covenant with thee, and the Elohim Yah, and thou become mine. You know what I'm saying? So the Creator saved old Amorite, Tezzeret Amorite. You know, the Amorites was born with no pigmentation, and he was thrown out in the field, and the Creator saved him. You know what I'm saying? And gave him a civilization, and that's gonna be the civilization that you see in Mesopotamia that relates to the Amorites. And Hamabari was one of the individuals that had the covenant contract that they had. When they say that those 300 laws that Hamabari had that's supposed to be where we got ours from, no, the Amorites had a covenant, and the Creator gave them a covenant and set them on the right path. But they start mixing with those Nephilims and Raphalims. That's gonna be Cain descendants from mixing with those angelic beings who didn't need no pigmentation and didn't need no pigmentation, because they wasn't confined to the sun. You see what I'm saying? So Cain gonna have some kids fooling with them folks, and out come the Nephilims and Raphalims. And the Nephilims and Raphalims was in Sodom and Gomorrah, and that's where the gay stuff was promoted at. The lesbian and gay camps, the gay and lesbian camps, Sodom and Gomorrah, and that's what those Amorites was pushing. They was pushing abortions, everything that's going on today that's wicked. Go back to them back in the days, and I'm gonna show you who they is and how they got their land back also. All right, so you know, we know that the Amorites, the Creator said, then I washed thee with water. Yeah, I thoroughly washed away thy blood from thee, and I anointed thee with oil, and I clothed thee also with broader work, and showed thee with badger skin, and I girded thee about with fine linen, and I covered thee with silk, and I decked thee also with ornaments, and put my bracelets upon thy hands, and a chain on thy neck, and I put jewels on thy forehead, and earrings in thee in ears, and a beautiful crown upon thee in head. You know, and then they go on to tell you how they turned wicked. You know what I'm saying? They turned real wicked on the Creator. And we were supposed to come in and displace them and get them out the land. But when we came into the promised land, we started parlaying and kicking it with them. And that caused our destruction along with the Egyptian religious system that was embedded in us. Because like, you know, Prophet Ezekiel said that Egypt bust us open from the beginning, was the first religious system to trick us. You see what I'm saying? All right. So we know those Amorites had a culture before us Hebrews. And if you go to let's see, all right, man, if you go to Exodus, I'm gonna show you Judges. You know what I'm saying? If you go to Judges, I'm gonna show you how we was all messed up. You know, we didn't, do the thing to them Amorites when we came out the promised land, which caused us to fall in the latter days. Like the Creator said, that the people in the gods in the land will be a snare unto us. And the Creator even knew that we would break his covenant. If you go to Deuteronomy 32. Deuteronomy 32 and 16, and it says this. And the Elohim said unto Moses, Behold, thou shalt sleep with thy father, and this people will rise up and go a-whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land where they go to be among them, and will forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. And then if you look at what Prophet Moses said, For I know that after my death ye will utterly corrupt yourselves, and turn aside from the way which I have commanded you, and evil will befall you in the latter days, because ye will do evil in the sight of the Elohim, to provoke him to anger through the works of your hands. And when we come out the promised land, like I said, Moses' death, Moses was on out from 406 BC, from 406 BC to you know what I'm saying, we Exodus in 1446 BC. All right, you know what I'm saying? Leviticus, was wrote 1445 BC. Prophet Moses would, pass around 1406 BC. And we start to come into the land then, and we start to come into the land when Joshua was on. And at Joshua's death in 1375, we would be into all kind of little bondages in the book of Judges. We would be in all kind of little bondages from 1375 to the time that Prophet Samuel was born, around about 1100 BC. From 1375 BC at the end of Joshua's death to the birth of Samuel, it is 275 years. We was messed up needing judges. We was messed up. You know what I'm saying? And then we know from 1100 BC to around about 1010 BC, that cover the history of King David, Saul and King David, Samuel, Saul and King David. King David come on the throne of Judah in 1010 BC. He would rule over all Israel 1003 BC. You know what I'm saying? He would rule all over Egypt, all over Israel. All right. And then King David would die around about 970 BC. 970 BC from 1100 BC to 970 BC is 130 years we did the covenant up under Samuel, Saul, and King David. Solomon, we start to slip. That's going to be around about 970 BC. Solomon's death is 931 BC. From 931 BC to 631 BC is 300 some years. 300 years we was on the Egyptian worship from Jeroboam. From Jeroboam, we on the Egyptian religion. And then it get cleaned up. Like I say, we was only in the promised land for 800 years. You know what I'm saying? If you do 1375 to 588 BC, when we went into Africa during the Babylonian Wars, man, that's under 800 years. That's under 800 years we stayed in the promised land, and we didn't stay there long enough to leave a print, an imprint. We got kicked out basically as soon as we got there, because the Egyptian culture that was there in the land was a couple of thousand years old when Prophet Abraham pulled up. The same with the Canaanite Amorite culture. It was a couple of thousands of years old. And when we left Egypt in 1446 BC, And then we finally start coming into the promised land, man, around by 1375 BC. Man, we was already messed up. We was on Egyptian worship, you know what I'm saying? And we was throwed off. We never did get on the right track. We never did get on the right track. So this brother is real wicked. You know what I'm saying? Real wicked for trying to push that Egyptian heritage on us. You know what I'm saying? That's like these people wicked too. Look at them. Watch this. With that Egyptian stuff. Look. That was the Egyptian pharaoh that built the obelisk that enslaved us and that wanted to steal our spirit in Egypt. You know what I'm saying? So man, it's all messed up. Man, it's all messed up, man. It's all messed up, and we ain't gonna have no help from nobody else, no Africans, none of those folks to come save us. And we have to come back to our heritage and wake up and do this ourselves. We owe it to humanity to wake up and get our heritage back. You know what I'm saying? That's like I was telling this brother that, you know, those African nations, you know, this wicked individual talking about we the Africans, we the Egyptians. And it's a known fact that we've been here in bondage for 400 some years. 400 years, and no African nation has came to retrieve us or to do anything for us, to help us in any kind of way. It's a known fact that the Europeans, the white folks, got it where you can sell up to any nation. You can sell up to any nation within 12 miles. 12 miles, you can sell up to any nation. You can pull up to any nation 12 miles. You know what I'm saying? 12 miles to that nation, you could pull up. That's a treaty that they got locked in, and that's the way it is. You know, you could be an enemy, and you could drive up to your enemy coast and point guns and bombs and everything 12 miles from their coast. That's international waters. How about a ship ain't never came from Africa? Ain't never came from Africa to get us from this captivity. You know, they could have sailed the ship 12 miles up to the coastland, and we would have got out there some kind of way and got on this ship and got back home. These Africans are not they are not here to help us, and they know that we are not them. You know, we are Hebrews, and our whole everything is different from them. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, them Africans ain't gonna help us, and we are not them. We are the Hebrew Israelites. You know? All right. Now, Hebrews, let me show y'all the people that got our heritage. Man, if I got enough time, because this video don't record long. All right. If you go to 2 Kings chapter 17. 2 Kings chapter 17. 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 24. And this is where the Jews come in at. This is where the Jews come in at. This is where the Jews come in at. All right. All right, you know what I'm saying? You see that word? See that word, Sepharavim? Chapter 17, 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 24. All right. You see the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Cuddar and from Ava and from Hamath and from Sepharavim and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel, and they possessed Samaria. Okay, Sepharavim is the Hebrew word for Sephardi, Sephardic, and Sepharadim. It's only two sets of Jews. It's Ashkenazi and the Sephardi groups. Well, the Sephardi groups mixed a little bit. The Sephardic's gonna be the ones that mix with the Europeans. You know, southern, you know, Europe, Italy, Spain, and you know, France and so forth. You know, and the Sephardim's gonna be the Jews that's mixed with the Arabs and the African tribes, and you know, the people that got a little pigmentation. Well, they are all Sephardis, and the Sephardi word is Sepharavim, the only word in the Bible that didn't get translated, because I guess it would have led to people understanding that the Sephardi Jews are not Hebrews. Well, them people, the Sephardi Jews, was placed in our land in 722 BC, and they learned our heritage. They learned our heritage. As you read down to 2 Kings chapter 17, and then you get to verse 32, you'll see it says, And they feared the Elohim, and made unto themselves of the lowest of them priests of the high places, which sacrificed for them in the houses of the high places. They feared the Elohim, and served their own gods, after the manner of the nations whom they carried away. See what I'm saying? So they was doing our heritage. And then if you look at verse 41, 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 41, and it says, so these nations fear the Elohim, and serve their graven images, both their children and their children's children, as they do in their fathers unto this day. So that's a fact. When we went into Africa in the book of Jeremiah to worship the Egyptian religion, like I say, we was tricked out the covenant by the Egyptians. And those people, stayed there, and they start doing the land. They start doing our heritage. And then how about those people was from Babylon? If you look at the Sipper and Nipper, those gonna be twin cities. You couldn't be a king in Babylon and none of its principalities if you didn't get consecrated from those folks. And then those people, Sipper is the word for Sepharvim. Sipper and Sepharvim is the same. Well, that's where all the history of Babylon was kept. All the history of his gods, Norjal, Murdoch, just to name a few. All his gods was there. And those people are responsible for the archives of Babylon, for writing his gods' history. And all the history of Babylon, they're responsible for. So when these people came into our heritage, it was, it was done. They was going to blot our heritage out because they were scribes. They were scribes from Babylon, and they started writing the history, and they started writing the history showing that they was the Hebrews. Did nobody mention in history or what happened to the Queen of Heaven worshipers? The Queen of Heaven worshipers went into Africa in the book of Jeremiah to say we was going to do the Egyptian religion, and how that they didn't come home from Africa after the Babylonian wars ended, because you have the Persians who turned the exiles loose that was taken to Babylon at 1%, and then they come home. They didn't record the Queen of Heaven worshipers coming out of Africa to be reunited with them. We had time. If you going into Africa in 588 BC to the book of Malachi, which is our last book, around about 420 BC, is 168 years. Okay, from 588 BC to the Greeks show up in 332 BC is 256 years that the Hebrews would have been in Africa. You know what I'm saying? So we never come back, from Africa. And look, those people was doing our heritage. And look, you can even see this under King Hezekiah. Let me turn right to it. All praise be Almighty Yah. All right, if you get, this is in 715 BC. This is 7 years after the Sibhardi groups was placed in our land in Samaria. If you read Second Chronicles, you're gonna also see that it wasn't no 10 lost tribes, And I'm gonna read some of this. And all the tribes was at home. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah, and wrote letters unto Ephraim and Manasseh, that they should come to the house of the Elohim at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah of Israel. For the king had taken counsel, and his princes and all the congregation in Jerusalem, to keep the Passover in the second month. They couldn't keep it in the first month, for they could not keep it at that time, because the priests had not sanctified themselves sufficiently, neither had the people gathered themselves together at Jerusalem. And this thing pleased the king and all his congregation. So they established a decree to make proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba even from Dan. That's our whole heritage right there, that they should come to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah at Jerusalem, for they had not done so a long time in such sort as it was written. So the post written with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, according to the commandment of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hands of the king of Assyria. So, the Hebrews escaped the Assyrians, and then if you read on down, you will see that it says, this is 30 verse 10, 2 Chronicles. So the post from the city went city to city throughout the countries of Ephraim and Manasseh, even unto Zebulun, but they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. Nevertheless, the verse of Asher and Manasseh and Zebulun humbled themselves and came to the Passover. All right, and then when you get to the other page, you know what I'm saying, you'll see it says, this is verse 18, 30 verse 18, 2 Chronicles. All the tribes at home, no 10 lost tribes. For a multitude of the people, even many of Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, and Zebulun, had not cleansed themselves, yet they did eat the Passover, otherwise it was written. But Hezekiah prayed for them, saying, the good Elohim pardon everyone. So all the Hebrews was at home. And then the Hebrews not mentioned during King Hezekiah time, gonna be mentioned during King Josiah time, his grandson. You see what I'm saying? So when you get to 2 Chronicles 34, and then you read down to verse 6, and it said, so did he in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, Simon, unto Naphtali with their buttocks. And this is in 640 BC. The Assyrian captivity is over. The Syrians not even on the map no more. They ain't no problem. You see what I'm saying? Matter of fact, the Syrians is finna get destroyed around about that time. You know, a few more years later, the Babylonians, the Scythians, whose code name in history is Ashkenazi, they made up the Chaldean army. They would destroy Assyria and come immediately for us in the promised land, because we had to get up off the promised land because we said we wanted to do Egyptian religion after King Josiah was killed by old wicked Necho, the Egyptian. And then they put us back on that Egyptian religion, and we went into Africa, and we've been enslaved from that ever since. Ever since, right now to this day. All right. 34 show all the tribes there. All right. If you go to First Chronicles chapter 5. First Chronicles chapter 5. So this dude real wicked saying we ain't the Hebrews. I done overproved we the Hebrews. You see what I'm saying? All right. First Chronicles chapter 5, and then you read verse 18. The sons of Reuben, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, violent men, able to bear a buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow, and skillful in war. You know what I'm saying? Was 40,703 score that went out to war. All right, them the ones that the king of Assyria needed to help them fight the Babylonians. I can show that that it was prophesied that the northern army will be taken away. All right. This is First Chronicles chapter 5, verse 26. And the Elohim and the Yah of Israel stirred up the spirit of Paul, king of Assyria, in the spirit of Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and he carried them away, even the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh, and brought them unto Hala and Harbor and Horror, and to the river Gazon unto this day. All right, Joe. So you know it's a known fact that that's who the Assyrians needed. You know, and then if you go to Joel 20:20, all right, Joel 20:20, this is gonna be telling you, you know what I'm saying, about the Assyrian taking the army before it even happened. All right, this is in Joel. All right, Joel 2 verse 20. But I will remove far off from you the northern army, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his faces toward the east, and his hinder part towards the uttermost sea. And his stink shall come up, and his ill favor shall come up, because he had done great things. You know, that's what happened to the northern army. They was taken to Assyria to help those Assyrians fight the Babylonian Chaldeans. You know, the white folks were starting to come up out the mountains and stuff, and they was swarming around Assyria, and Israelites was finna go out because they had trespassed the promised land and did some damage to us there. And everybody that trespassed the promised land and come through there, they always get it. You know what I'm saying? That's like them people that got our heritage. They gonna get it for long, because we coming back home. All right, check this out, Hebrews. them individuals is so wicked. They want us to be Egyptians. You know, the Egyptian system it was created to make slaves out of people, to make spiritual slaves out of you. Because once you get the music, the dancing, and all the comforts of Egypt, you done lost your whole soul. You done forgot who the creator is, and that's the Egyptians didn't want us to worship the creator. Like I said, the Egyptians had to do trade across the promised land on the other side of us. And us having that covenant right there was cutting Egypt off, and then us being a priestly nation supposed to having a new culture that wasn't like the Egyptian culture and the Babylonian culture and the Canaanite culture that was around us. We were supposed to put their lights out, and with that new culture, we was gonna put their lights out. But you know, them folks got the best of us. They started tricking us, and we started parlaying with us like we do now. You know, that's what we gonna do. You know, that's like after slavery. And instead of us trying to get away from our enemy, you see us laying down with the enemy and trying to be like the enemy. Well, that's how Israel being the whole time. You know, even the scriptures say, is we a homeborn slave? Is Israel a homeborn slave? You know, because we got the mentality of somebody, you know, in captive that don't want to be free. All right, these individuals is wicked, trying to take advantage of that. You know, they want us to be Egyptians so we can have our soul lost and be messed up in this Egyptian system forever. You know, and it's a known fact that this is Egypt, because the Creator said that we'll be taken to Egypt in ships. You know, I can go through all them curses, but I'm sure everybody know about them curses. You know, one of the curses was to get to Egypt in ships. And we know that happened to us. You know, we the only people that, you know, have been taken to Egypt, you know, in ships. You know, and this obelisk that we was enslaved under in Egypt is here with us in Central Park. So we know this is, you know, the Egypt that the Creator said that the Hebrews would be taken to. Us a whole lot of verses I can go through to prove this. And like I said, you know, our history is vast. And you can't get our history and sum it all up in no debate in an hour, 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? Man, it take a long time to sum our history up, because our history is so mysterious and it's so much associated with it. But we the Hebrews, and we broke the covenant in the book of Jeremiah during the Babylonian wars, and we went into Africa to worship the Egyptian religion in the Sahara. And we was enslaved from Africa, fulfilling all the curses that Moses said would be against the Hebrews. So, you know, this dude city is over with. Israelite brotherhood can show we Hebrews real easy. And all you other Hebrews, it's easy to show we Hebrews. All you got to do is take them to the book of Jeremiah and explain that we the Hebrews that broke the covenant for the Egyptian religion. The same religion that them suckers trying to get us to embrace and be about is the same religion that destroyed us, as I showed. You know what I'm saying? All right. If you go to Deuteronomy 38, 68. And the Elohim shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by way of, I spake unto thee, and thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondman and bondwoman, and no man shall buy you. Meaning that nobody can bring no gold and redeem us out the bondage that we was in. You know, back in the days, you could take some gold or take something and give to the captor and free the people. You see what I'm saying? Well, that can't be done. And that couldn't be done with us breaking the covenant. You know, going into Egypt, Africa, to worship their religion, saying that we didn't want to do the covenant that Moses gave us. You know? So, man, and like I proved, the Canaanite culture was there, pre-Israelite culture, and the Canaanites control over Babylon around about 2200 BC. So, you know, we've been caught up, man. We've been caught up, but we can get free of all this stuff if we turn to the Creator and tell them folks that trying to make us be Egyptians that we ain't with none of that, and screw Egypt, and that we ain't down with that, and that we hate the Egyptians and everything that they stood for. You know what I'm talking about? We can't be happy for the Egyptian culture that destroyed us. That's the trick, to make us want to be Egyptians, knowing that the Egyptian culture is what destroyed us. It's like locking yourself down in a cell, locking yourself in a jail where you can't get out and stuff. And if you embrace that Egyptian culture, that's what you're doing. You locking yourself in the jail that you can't get out of. You know, we fool with that Egyptian religion, and that caused our whole enslavement. So we can't fool with that mess. Them folks crazy. That dude is crazy. And them dudes weak too. In their argument weak. He be taking advantage of the people that don't read and study and stuff. He real evil and wicked. And then those Hebrews that be trying to debate him, they don't know no history. They be using Jewish history. You see, the Jews, the apocalypse books, Esaias too, and the Maccabees, all them old wicked books come from them Amorite scribes, the Babylonian scribes that come from Babylon that was placed in our land in Samaria. They created all those books after we went into Africa and they destroyed the exiles. I got videos showing that the exiles were destroyed. You know, you even have the Greeks, the Ptolemaeus. The Ptolemaeus claiming Israelite heritage. The Lichemists and the Ptolemaeus. I show how they are related to the people in the New Testament. That's like if you research the history of the people who controlled the temple during the New Testament times, you're going to see that they was all Edomites. All Edomites. Here's a picture of the Ptolemy. When Jesus got to Egypt, he would have seen his relatives, the Ptolemy relatives, and he would have seen Greek statues of white folks. You know, the white folks held Egypt during Jesus' time. You know, the Greeks and the Romans. And Jesus was so wicked. If you look up the history of the Discopolis cities and you look up Scythopolis gonna be the Scythians. Scythopolis gonna be Ashkenazi, the Scythians that had settled in the Promised Land, and Jesus had them as members. I don't know if you Hebrews familiar with that verse where they try to say that those are the synagogue of Satan who say they are Jews and are not. How about they was talking about Ashkenazi had 300 something synagogues wrapped around her Edomite temple. 300 something synagogues wrapped around her Edomite temple, and that those Sephardi Edomites was talking about Ashkenazi. You see what I'm saying? That don't have nothing to do with that the Jews being black and that some other folks is being fake that's in the land. See, them folks been laughing at y'all for a long time for that. You know what I'm saying? They know deep, you know what I'm saying, in behind closed doors that y'all are real stupid with that verse, thinking that it's talking about that the Edomites was black and here comes some fake white Jews trying to steal our heritage. No, that's talking about how Ashkenazi had 300 synagogues wrapped around her Edomite temple. You know, that temple that Jesus prayed in was an Edomite temple, and it was built in 20 BC, and it wasn't refurbished. It was built from the ground up. Her took the old temple down that the Syrians had messed up, and a few other people that the exiles had repaired, but the exiles was gone, and the Greeks killed them 98 within a 98-year span. I mean, I got all that history. You know what I'm saying? If y'all look at the Israelite Brotherhood archives, you'll see all that history, and also subscribe to the Israelite Brotherhood site to keep up with the latest videos. You know, Jesus prayed in her temple, and it was about 20 Jesuses during her time. Jesus being Anat, Jesus being Stada, Jesus being Sharat, Jesus being Aeneas, Jesus being Thought, Jesus being Gamaliel. It was a bunch of them. You know what I'm saying? And what them Babylonian scribes did that got our heritage is that they combined all that Jesus history into one. And then I show in the book of Isaiah how it's impossible to try to take that Emmanuel story and that Emmanuel history and try to classify it to a demigod. You know what I'm saying? That junk is wicked. And you Hebrews are wicked for believing in that New Testament stuff. You know, something that the Greeks and the Romans and them put up. And this is an image of her temple that Jesus prayed in. That's her Edomite temple. That ain't even the temple that the that the Hebrews put up. That's a totally different temple. And Jesus prayed in that and called it his daddy house. You see what I'm saying? Jesus was so stupid and so wicked that when the Hebrews went into Egypt during the Babylonian wars and never came home, that Jesus' stupid tail went to Egypt and he didn't even know that the Hebrews was in the Sahara from the Babylonian times. So, you know, he was a real dumb guy. And this guy, Jesus would have seen the image of him. That's a pletholaman. You know what I'm saying? Them the pharaohs Jesus would have seen. You know what I'm saying? And Jesus would have seen them folks. The Ptolemies, the Seleucids, and all those folks. Them Romans and them Greeks, the Greeks and the Romans. You know, all right, here's a picture of those folks that got our heritage. Those are the Sephardi Jews. You know, they had pigmentation and they did trade all around the world. You know, they did trade in China, India. They did trade in North Africa, in East Africa, and wherever they went and did trade, they converted them people and made them into Jews. So now today, you Hebrews that's confused be saying, that's our brother in China. That's our Hebrew brother in India. That's our Hebrew brother in Africa. You don't know nothing about no history. You know what I'm saying? You don't even know that the Randanites, that's the Jewish merchant guilds that traded all around the world before we even was enslaved. You know what I'm saying? During the transatlantic slave trade, they had been laid. They trading down for thousands of years from the Babylonian trade routes that they had, and they made Jews everywhere when they got our heritage and started writing books and creating history for them. And you Hebrews be saying, them our brothers, but them people ain't under no curses, ain't been shipped to no strange land, ain't been through none of the curses that Moses said, and didn't go into Africa during the Babylonian wars, which is going to be the only way to prove that you a Hebrew Israelite, is to show that you was taken from Africa during the transatlantic slave trade where the Hebrews ran to. So if you can't do that, you ain't no Hebrew. And then what they say, well, we spread all around the world. Well, okay, you spread all around the world from the American military. We still in captivity. And when this country come to an end, I'm sure it's going to be Hebrews leaving from everywhere trying to get to the promised land, no matter where they at and what branch of the military they in. You know? Okay. Oh, wicked Jesus. Oh, wicked Jesus. All right, this is another thing. Now let's clear up that Hebrews in the Americas. You know, we know ain't no Hebrews in the Americas that came to know America during the Assyrian times. It's impossible because we had a knowledge of wheels, carts. We could domesticate animals. We could raise wheat. And none of that was found in the Americas. You know what I'm saying? The only reason them natives got it because the Jews seen that they worship idols and they put the sword to them. You know what I'm saying? But wasn't no Hispanics and none of those folks on the transatlantic slave trade routes. You know what I'm saying? They didn't come from Africa's waters. And we know that the Hebrews had to have sheep and goats and cattle. And that's what we was used to. And we wouldn't go nowhere from Assyria through no magic waterfall and end up in no Americas without none of our tools. So that's false history, in that the Hebrews worship the Queen of Heaven, cattle gods. You see what I'm saying? There ain't no cattle gods. No golden calves was found in America. So we know that's a lie. And like I said, them people created history for those people that they did trade with in other lands. You know, the people that they said was cool with them. You know, the Jews would convert them and turn them into Jews. And later on, we'll say, that's our brother. That's our brother in India. That's our brothers in China. And all that old mess, and don't know nothing about the history. All right, shalom. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. You know, them brothers that's been telling lies on our history. This video show we the Hebrews. Real easy. So, you know, get these videos in circulation and tell your people to watch these videos and subscribe to the Israelite Brotherhood. This is Israel ben Israel for the Israelite Brotherhood. Shalom, Hebrews. And we're going to put these fools in their place. It's easy. And like I said, the Israelite Brotherhood is the only organization that's showing that we the Queen of Heaven worshipers that went into Africa during the Babylonian Wars. That's the only history that's going to work. And any other history outside of that is Jewish history, and you will be defeated.